Ladies and gentlemen, hello, hello. I am joined today by Patrick Gallagher, CEO of GridPane. Sir, how are you doing? Thank you for joining me on such short notice here.
Yeah, no worries. I am doing really good. It's been a crazy, chaotic week already, as it always is this time of year. But things are going good. Nothing is blown up and burst into flames yet. So, and
That's
I can
good.
say thankfully that's also true for our clients because we've got a lot of people who obviously are crushing it this time of year also, and thankfully we've got our team hard at work making sure that all their WooCommerce stuff just keeps cranking away without issue. So,
Dope. Awesome. Well, we have some interesting things to talk about. Before we get into that, guys, if you're in the chat, if you're hearing us, seeing us, make sure audio, visually, everything's good. Let me know if I need to tweak the audio levels at all, because it's hard for me to kind of know that from my position here. But let me know if I need to raise Patrick up, lower either of us, whatever. But yeah, if we're all good there, I'll keep an eye on the chat there. And again, I want to say right off the bat too, I think we already got some questions incoming, just kind of from just the title and thumbnail and everything. If you have any of those, drop
sure.
those in there. I got a list of stuff. Patrick and I talked the other day, kind of actually before kind of all the stuff went live on GridPane.com. There's a lot to get into. The deals, the change in kind of like the little bit of the direction as far as like the hosting and everything like that with GridPane. I got questions literally on my videos, so I'm so excited to have Patrick here to answer those questions for you guys. So we can just kind of dive into it. We can kind of freeball it a little bit. The way that I kind of thought first was, Patrick, if you want to give us to the undoctrinated,
Hmm.
maybe some people already have GridPane, maybe they're thinking about it, maybe they heard about it, but just give a brief history, and then I'll interject some of my perspective as well, because I've been a GridPane user for at least a year and a half. I want to say almost 2 years now.
Hmm.
And it's been
Sounds
a
right.
great experience. So I want to hear how you kind of started it briefly, but also just like kind of your methodology and way of running this hosting company and this whole ecosystem up to this point. What's that been like?
Yeah. So for just a bit of context, before I started working on GridPane, I ran my own marketing and technology agency for just about 13 years. And in that time, I pretty much every year I'd have maybe 2 to 3 dozen clients. It was all fairly high touch, 6 to 12 month engagements, renewing. And in that time, I certainly used every shitty host on the face of the planet, but I also used some really good ones. And but basically, at every turn, um, nothing ever checked all the boxes for me. Yeah. So I wanted the capability of I wanted the tooling of a fully managed provider like a WP Engine or a Kinsta, but I wanted the control and the transparency and the ability to actually see what was going on the server, knowing how big the server was going to be. Like I come from a fairly technical background, and so I couldn't get what I needed. And I literally sat down on a Sunday and I started doing the Benjamin Franklin list of the pros and cons of all of the different things that existed out there, all the existing control panels, all of the existing managed services, and nothing checked enough of the boxes. And so, in a fit of rage um, and confusion, I sort of set out to build this tooling that I needed for my own agency. And after about a year of working on it, my wife says, you don't really talk about your clients anymore. All you do is you talk about this thing that you're building, and how excited you are about that." And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Maybe you should do something about that." So I never set out to build GridPane for everybody else. I set out to build it for me. It's what I needed for my own agency. But along the way, I kept answering a lot of the same questions and seeing a lot of the same problems crop up for people. And I realized that I wasn't completely alone in this desire to have the granular, yeah, to have the control of being able to see everything that's going on, but also having, the tooling that simplifies things and automates things, because I had people on my team that were not as technically capable as I was. So if I said, "Hey, we've got a new customer in Chicago, I need you to stand up a server over there," they wouldn't know what they were doing. They were great at WordPress, they were great at customer support, they were great at design, but I didn't have any. The sysadmin and the DevOps person was me. Yeah. So I was basically trying to solve for that. And And so in February of 2018, we publicly launched GridPane. And for about a year straight, we didn't make very much money at all. We only had a few dozen, less than 100 customers. And it was kind of interesting. It was actually almost a year to the day that we launched that somebody in a Facebook group, somebody was asking a question, hey, how do I solve this problem? How can I, save money in hosting or not get bent over the barrel on XYZ? And somebody said GridPane, and then somebody underneath it said +1. They did the +1 thing. And it was basically from that point onward, we started to grow at times very, very quickly, but 100% organic. We now have customers in 120 some odd countries around the globe. We've never done any advertising. All of the customers that we get come to us, 99% via word of mouth. We do get a lot of organic SEO traffic now, obviously. And a lot of people find out about us in Facebook groups. And so here we are. Yeah. And so in the last 6 months or so, we've learned some things about how to, eat our own dog food and use our own tooling to solve problems for people in the same way, but for the end customer, their experience of the platform is completely different, because some of our biggest customers now, their UI to GridPane is Slack. They literally just message us in Slack and say, hey, we need another huge WooCommerce site. Here's the URL. Here's the backup. Go crazy. And then we just use our own team. We use our own tooling. We use our own capability. And we provide really high-end enterprise managed WordPress. Yeah. And so we want to focus more on that in 2025 and streamline our own tooling and improve the platform. But we've just sort of discovered that it's like, yeah, there's a good number of people out there like yourself that like to get in there and like to get into the weeds, and will read the documentation and will actually, they're a very good fit for how it is that we do things and kind of our ethos around everything. But there's also a lot of people that just don't want to lift a single finger, and so our thing has never really been, obvious to those people. And so what we want to be able to do is try and reconcile those things. And so we're going to simplify the plans that are available. And so obviously we've announced some of these changes via our Black Friday promotional page, and we put some videos out there. And understandably, some people are sort of panicked because they hear, oh, you're canceling these plans, and they immediately hear, well, then you're shutting my account down. And it's like, no. It's the best time to sign up for us was 7 years ago. The second best time to sign up for us is today. We're just not going to allow new customers to access the platform in the way that everybody has been able to up to this point. Yeah. And so when people hear that, at best, some of them who are concerned think, well, then I'm locked into this plan and I'm not going to be able to get anything else in the future. And that's just also not the case. Yeah. Everything that we do is going to be available as paid add-ons and upgrades. And so people even starting out at $25 a month on GridPane Cloud, which is what we're going to be calling things in the future, the direct-to-consumer version of what we're doing, you would be able to scale that up to anything you wanted. You just won't be able to come in and say, hey, I'll give you $500 and I'll host an unlimited number of sites on you. And basically we just realized that we're just not capturing the value that we're delivering, and so we're just changing plans around, so the long and short of it is that everything's going to be more expensive in the future for new customers then. Yeah. All existing customers now, they're always going to get the best of it. We've for better or for worse, we've stood by that every single year. Like when we've raised prices, we've done it after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and we've let all of our existing customers know, hey, if you want this new stuff, you can get this new stuff, but you don't have to. You don't ever have to change. You don't ever have to pay more money. I don't necessarily recommend that for any SaaS founders out there who are thinking about starting a company and just locking in their customers forever and never raising their prices. It's not necessarily a brilliant strategy. If you wanted to build a nonprofit, it's one way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
There's,
I'll stop running my mouth here and let you
no, that's
ask more
great
questions.
context there. So you kind of hit on everything, I feel like, at a high level, which is fantastic. I think a couple things, if we kind of go back and then we can come kind of back into that conversation, so to speak. So when I started, I was with like
Mm-hmm.
shared hosting, and then I was with Cloudways, and then I found out about GridPane. And GridPane is awesome to me because I actually owned my box, so to speak. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, Vulture or whoever actually kind of owns it, but like you had direct access to it and everything like that. So that's one big point that kind of brought me over into the GridPane ecosystem, and also all the, you know, the panel and everything like that. Like you said something interesting on our call the other day, and I never really thought about it particularly like this because I just hadn't put two and two together. But GridPane, as it stands currently, if you're on like panel or if you're on like kind of Dev Plus or whatever, you're kind of utilizing GridPane more as like a server control panel, essentially, like, so to speak, like the top layer between the actual hardware and then, you know, whatever else you have. And I don't think that is 100% necessarily changing, but the way in which it's kind of obviously offered, so to speak, is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should probably say right off the bat here that if you want those, just to make it clear, if you do want that experience, like if you've been on the fence for a long time and you wanted an experience where you could go to GridPane, and then you could also go to Vulture, you go to AWS, you go to DigitalOcean, and get those boxes and run those boxes via the GridPane UI and the you know the tooling and everything in between there. This is your last chance because those things are going into the vault. Like what is it? Panel, Developer Plus, 8, like those things are going into the vault. You absolutely need to go do those now if you want to do that. So we're correct on that. Right.
Yeah. So what I'll say is that the plans at their current prices is absolutely going in the vault. Yeah.
Okay.
And so for example, right now, you know, we get people who come to us who are spending thousands of dollars per month on, you know, a literal handful of sites at WP Engine, and they have a plan that they can sign up with us, and it's $100 a month for panel, and they literally, you know, they don't know it because they just assume that there's magic happening somewhere, you know, but they literally, you know, could just sign up for panel and never need another thing. They could spin up one server with us. They could put those 6 sites on probably a $50 box, and then they're off to the races. Yeah. And so what we really need to be able to do is narrow down on the value metrics, to use a term that's really important in SaaS, in software as a service. We need to narrow down the value metrics that we can make available to people as paid upgrades, where, you know, there's a certain number of sites, there's a certain size of server, you know, like future versions of GridPane Cloud, you will be able to, again, you'll be able to get anything that is available now. It's just, you're going to have to layer on all these different upgrades, right? And so in total, if you were to add in all of the features of Dev Plus, for example, that might be $750 a month or $1,000 a month, you know, starting in Q1 2025. Whereas right now, today, you can get the annual, you know, 30% off, and it's $3,500 a year, you know, and again, you can host as many sites as you want. So the plans and the pricing bundles is what is being sunset. The capabilities are, obviously, we're going to continue investing in those for many years to come. And one key point of confusion, which it's 100% my fault, as everything is in business, is, you know, people saw, well, wait, you're canceling this plan, so why would I buy a lifetime deal of a plan that you're then going to set end of life, you know? And it's like, yeah, no, we're not canceling those plans. We're just not going to make them available to new customers at those prices in the future, you know? And then existing customers, you've always been able to upgrade and downgrade and all that other stuff. Well, you're not going to be able to do that in the future, but you will be able to add those add-ons on. So you might need another support seater. You might need, you know, you might want snapshot failover. You might want some of the features that are available to higher plans, but you don't necessarily need to go all the way to spending $500 a month. You know, you might just want $20 worth of features here, $100 worth of features there, and everybody will be kind of able to, you know, Chinese menu build their own plan in the future. Even just the lowest, you know, cheapest sign up will have the option to choose to add as many things as they want, but it just won't ever in aggregate be as good of a deal as all of the stuff that you can sign up for right now.
It makes sense. I mean, you're evolving the business. Obviously, you're evolving the offering. I'm definitely empathetic to it. So let's use a real world example because we were getting some great questions here. Let me switch over to our screen here. So I'm just on the pricing page of GridPane, and David Oss has a great question here. So if I'm on Developer Plus, will I be able to upgrade to agency down the line? Now, if I could take a crack at answering this question based on what you said there, the answer is no with an asterisk. Like you're not going to be able after this. You're not going to be able like I'm on Developer Plus too. So like if like I was on this plan and I was getting all these benefits, all these features, and then something happens, we grow and everything like that, and then 2 years down the line I want to move to agency. Well, if we were on this timeline, if that happened like today or like a month ago, 2 months ago, or whatever, then I could have scheduled a demo, what have you, and upgraded to agency. But what you're saying now is that these plans in their current form are going away, but every single one of these like line items you're still going to have capability to. It's just not going to be attached to this plan with these types of pricing.
Correct. You've nailed it 100%. So I'll give you a very specific example of what this could look like. Yeah. So right now on agency, I think by default you get multiple support seats, and I want to say the current allocation is like 3. Yeah. So you get 3 support seats. So you could have people in 3 different time zones all around the world interacting with my team and getting single-digit minute response times in support. Yeah. For a bit of context, that same capability, like to add an additional support seat at a place like Pagely or WordPress VIP, for example, they charge $5,000 a month per seat for one of those seats. Okay. And we're including 3 of them at 1/10 that price. Yeah. If you were to spend $15,000 a month. And again, you're then paying, I think the lowest cost site hosting at VIP is $2,000 for one site. I think we include 360 support for 1,000 sites on agency right now. So it's like, again, we are orders of magnitude less expensive than the exact players that we are taking customers from. Like the biggest problem that we've always had is people go, and we started off this way. We started off as a hosting control panel for serious WordPress professionals. Well, the problem is that people then look at something like SpinUp, or they look at something like Cloudways, or they look at something like RunCloud as an alternative. And then they look at our stuff and they go, what the hell are you talking about? Like, this is so insanely expensive. And it's like, no. We regularly take customers away from WP Engine, from Pagely, from VIP, from the biggest enterprise players in the space. And we excel at that. That's been the last 6 months of my life, is just crushing those kinds of opportunities. And a lot of times they come to our pricing page and they look at this and they go, like, add a 0. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this doesn't make sense. Why is this so cheap? And this is a problem that I've been dealing with for years, is that somebody would come to us from like Pagely, for example. One of the longest sales cycles I ever had was a guy who came from Pagely. And we were like 3 or 4 months into negotiating with this guy and talking to this guy. And finally, I'm just like, Craig, what the hell is going on? Do you want this thing or not? And he's like, to be honest with you, the biggest problem is that we could not believe that it was going to be this good. And you're selling me this thing for $5,000 a year. And I'm paying $10,000 a month at Pagely. And so he literally was just like, if you had made it $60,000, I would have given you my credit card 4 months ago.
Wow.
Like, and it's like every single time I think I've seen the top of the mountain in this regard, I talk to another customer that's spending an order of magnitude more money than that, and it's like, it's funny after, I think I can talk about it, but interestingly enough, Pagely, the guy that founded that company, Josh Strebel, he and I are pretty friendly now. We text back and forth, And I was telling him that story, like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm taking this customer of yours. And he's like, yeah, don't feel bad about it, man. The first time that happened to me at scale was he'd signed like NYU or some massive college. And it was one of the largest deals that they'd ever dealt with at that point. And they signed him and they were like, oh my God, we did it. And then like in the first month or two, he got a letter from whoever their champion was at the university. And they said, hey man, we're loving things. We still can't believe that we're saving 50 cents on the dollar. And he's going, oh my God, you know, and it's like the biggest deal he's ever landed, you know. And then I heard something about, you know, somebody hosting Subaru Global, and it was millions of dollars, and it was the same thing, you know. And so it's like the more we do this, the more the market just pulls you upstream, you know, up market, if you're doing things right, you know. And so it's an unfortunate byproduct of getting really good at SaaS. Like we started really as direct to consumer, you know. We had a $10 a month plan, you know, at one point. That I think I still have one customer that's on that plan. And now we're literally talking to people that they're spending tens of thousands of dollars per month, you know, and they're miserable at sort of all of the traditional managed providers that are, you know, currently embroiled in massive legal battles amongst other billion-dollar companies, you know. So this is just our attempt to try and circle the square, you know, of like, can we make it easier and more obvious for the customers that we serve so well to just get our thing. And in order to do that, like we have to really make it clear what the value propositions are that we bring to our customers. And so that's why we're breaking all these plans apart. But again, all that functionality, exactly like you said, each line item, you know, if it is valuable, people will say, hey, can I get that? And we will go, yes, we will make that an available upgrade, you know, to your core plan or to your GridPane Cloud plan, you know. And so you'll be able to mix and match and build your own plans. But it just you won't ever be able to say, hey, I'm going to give you $18,000 a year and I'm going to host an unlimited number of sites on you, which is what people can do today, you know, if they wanted to. And so there's people spending $18,000 a month. There's people spending $180,000 a month, you know, on hosting. Yeah. And so they look at our stuff and they go, why are you 99 cents off? Or why are you 99% off? You know, there must be something wrong with you, you know? So,
well, those are good problems to have. And I think the one takeaway that I have here too is, I mean, obviously we probably have a lot of agency owners listening to this because that's like probably a large base of the customers and just other companies that are doing that. I mean, I would, if we take like just a quick tangent, it's like, try to build this for yourself too, even with your agency, you know, like you want to try to continue to move like upstream, up market. So just don't undersell your value, just as a random takeaway that I would have, because that's, I just always, when we have these chats, regardless if it's technical or business, I think there's a lot of takeaways there. So that's a huge one that I would say. We got a couple questions here too. So from David Oss, he says, are the current dev plans getting the Black Friday benefits? Now, we haven't really fully talked about the Black Friday stuff. I mean, we've obviously hinted at it a little bit, but I know you're doing a lot there. So you want to give me the breakdown kind of and just...
Yeah, so the hyper short version there is yes, existing developer plans, even developer LTDs who bought from me back in 2019. We literally just had a guy just a couple of days ago that he hadn't reached out to us in probably at least 2 years. But he had a very site-specific issue that we were on it in single-digit minutes, and we had him resolved and back in business as quickly as was possible. And it turned out it was some esoteric thing that had nothing to do with GridPane. It was a caching problem at Let's Encrypt. And so the short version is that everybody is always getting, you know, massive reinvestment in the new stacks, the new Nginx builds, the new operating system builds, the support that we have, the documentation, the refining of the APIs. Now, you know, to the specific points of, are we giving everybody these bonuses that we're making available to people that are signing up new or that are renewing on paid plans? The short answer to that is no. we're not going to continue to keep adding more and more and more and more and more value in the sense of things that we never perceived of. These are things that we never even imagined we would be able to do many years ago, and we certainly never sold them. Like I didn't know that I was going to have access to Colin Terrio and get him to do a private training just for the GridPane community. Like I know that I was going to be connected to industry players all across the space. But I will say that for anybody that's on any plan, even that guy that's on that $10 a month solo plan, I'm going to be dropping something tomorrow. Like we've been doing every day, we've been dropping these bonuses. Yeah. And I'm going to be dropping an announcement tomorrow. I'm going to record in the morning and then start making turkey. And we're hosting my wife's family over here. But I'm going to be dropping something tomorrow that will have more impact for existing Dev Plus customers and existing agency customers than it will for anybody else. But it will be something that every single customer of GridPane will ultimately get access to in the long run. And it's something that I think will be hugely beneficial for everybody. But the more sites you host, the more clients you have, the more impact this update tomorrow, this bonus that we're adding in tomorrow, will have. Yeah. So what we are always trying to do every year around Black Friday and Cyber Monday, particularly with legacy LTD customers, is we're trying to compel them to reinvest in GridPane and to choose to level up the relationship with us, and jump on the new ride going forward. But again, everybody that's on any legacy LTD plan, they're getting updates every week. They just don't generally see them because they go, where's the new flashy bauble? Where's the new thing? And it's like one of the things that we were just dealing with earlier today that is very non-obvious in this space and in this ecosystem is somebody was talking about, how is it that you can price this high, relative to other panels out there that have way better UIs, for example. Like our UI has obviously been always one of our biggest shortcomings. And what I would say, and what I did say to this person was, those other hosting control panel companies, especially the new ones, they have no idea the years and years and years of refinement that they have ahead of them in order to check every box and every edge case and solve for all of the things that break in our world. And so that stuff, that expertise, and that investment of the actual stack, so that you can handle an insane Black Friday, Cyber Monday, so that you can go, oh, I have this new constraint, so you actually need Elasticsearch. All of these edge cases that we've solved, people don't see how much investment that takes under the hood, and they never will. And it's, some of the things that we've decided to build over the years will go, oh, that's a cool idea. That's an interesting toggle. But we don't realize that between there and getting that toggle to work, there's like 8 different dragons that you have to slay in order to actually solve the obvious part. And it's like all the non-obvious things under the hood are the things that drag out development, for months and sometimes years to get to a point where you can go, yeah, that works. And that's production ready. Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely 2 large battles to fight there, not just to make the stuff work technically, but also to make the UI work. I'm totally empathetic to that too, because I think we all need to be very thankful, because I'm no expert at this, but I feel like if we didn't have any UI, then obviously it would be like command lining and dealing with all that other stuff to like actually make this stuff work, which I have very limited experience with. So I thank my lucky stars every day that I do have any semblance of a UI, and I think it's solid. So I want to come back to that in a second, but to wrap this kind of the question up then, and just kind of like wrap up really the Black Friday, Cyber Monday stuff mostly, because we'll get to it in a minute, but the GridPane Cloud offering, the thing that like people are like, if the title and thumbnail in this video, like GridPane is changing, like that's coming. That's not really fully available yet. We'll get to that. But specifically here, with these Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals is to put a bow on this. Obviously, these bonuses are geared towards people that are like purchasing something, like either coming into the GridPane ecosystem, maybe potentially like upgrading to different plans or something like that. But in this video, I would encourage you guys all to go watch the video that Patrick put up here. These are like bonuses throughout the week. And if you want to get like bonus 3, 4, you have to like, you would have had to get on like day 1 to get bonus 1 and those types of things. And there's a lot of cool stuff in here. So definitely, if you're not already a GridPane customer, go check all these out. But am I correct in saying that, Patrick, that these are all just like, trying to get people into the GridPane ecosystem, and these are incentives to do so?
Yeah. So the short version there, and you brought up something that I think is really useful, is as an agency owner, our biggest users, or the people that we have the biggest impact for, are very large, very successful agencies. Yeah. And to the point that you sort of started to make there, every agency owner needs to be thinking all of the time about what it is that they can do to extract more value and provide more value to their customers. And so like there's a guy that I talk to quite frequently, who he's actually going to be he's going to be doing the last special, the last sort of training masterclass on Cyber Monday, and he regularly quotes $50,000 plus for a website. Yeah. Now you tell that in the admin bar, you share that in the admin bar, and 98% or 99% of the people are going to be like, not only will they not believe it's possible, they'll say that's criminal. How dare you? How dare you charge so much money? And the thing about it is that there's another guy that messaged me the day that we launched it, and their smallest website projects that they take on are $75,000. Their average project is $250,000 to millions of dollars. Yeah. And so a lot of what these insights and a lot of what these experts, like subject matter experts, are that I'm bringing in to add more value to the GridPane community. The idea here is that a lot of people don't need a new feature so much as they need to know that there is a whole expansive universe out there that they just haven't let their mind see yet. And so you have to talk to an 8-figure agency owner and see that it's possible to even believe that you could possibly become a 7-figure agency owner. Yeah. And this has been true of me in my journey, and in how I've been fortunate to grow from nothing to millions of dollars, in recurring revenue. Along the way, I've got to meet, every year I meet somebody that's further along and further along and further along, and bigger and bigger scale. And so my hope is in bringing some of these people into the GridPane ecosystem, I'm introducing you to people who can totally change your mindset and your worldview and your critical thinking about these things, but then also give you the tools and the Rolodex for if you need help or you need the next step or you want to level up more, you have access to these people. But again, some of these things are going to just be actual feature and value benefits that we just make available to the community, one and all. And it's the people that are signing up now that are actually funding that investment,
Gotcha. So I'm clear though, for the bonuses that we're talking about here, obviously we're like 3 or 4 days in to like the stretch. So presumably, have you been doing some of these? Like just walk me through this. I know probably most people here are already on GridPane, but like if people signed up on the first day, for instance, did they just get like an email? Like, where are these things actually happening? Are they just happening offline? They're getting direct communications, and then those things are happening. Have they not happened yet, or what's the deal there? Just so I know.
Right. So the short version is that we're sending out emails every single day to basically say, hey, this is you missed the live thing, but here's the recording. Here's where that's going to be. Yeah. Okay. And to be honest with you, we've seen so much confusion around all of this stuff that I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to let anybody that gets in at all just have the stuff. Like it's going to create so much more.
Well,
It just creates it creates an enormous amount of operational drag on our end to go, well, did Mark get in on the first day or the second day? What's Mark's time zone? Did he, 12:01 his time is 9:30. Like, so I believe what we're going to do, probably because we try to do the right things whenever we can, is we'll probably just give everybody access to all the stuff. So if you sign up on Cyber Monday, you're going to get the cool shit. Partially because the training that I did on the very first day, I think that it's probably one of the best trainings I've ever created. It's all about, it's basically about how I, over the last several years, have figured out how to do outsourcing at a very, very, very high level and basically have 100% success on every single project that I've ever tried to outsource. Yeah. And that was not the case when I was running my agency 8 years ago, but I've spent more than $1.1 million just on our current, GridPane account at Upwork. And when we hire for a particular skill or for a particular project or particular outcome that we need to hire for, we get that outcome 100% of the time. And so that's one huge area where I feel like most agencies, one of the big stumbling blocks, especially when you're like nearing six figures and trying to go into multiple six figures, is it's really hard to hire and staff projects without hiring too far ahead. And then you're spending too much money and then the projects slow down, So being able to effectively outsource is, in my opinion, one of the most critical things that you can do in your agency to actually be able to scale without drowning in payroll, So mostly I want that to be out into the world to as many people as possible, because it's one of the biggest things that when I'm sort of one-on-one kind of coaching with our agency clients, it's one of the biggest things that they're always asking for. It's like, how are you doing that?
Yeah. I think your bonus structure here for new signups, like from a marketing perspective, is unbelievably smart. Just incentivizing and everything like that. As you said, hard to execute at like the fine tuning that you were talking about, but that's not as important, so to speak. But to answer the question, because I think we got it again, similar thing is I think what you're saying is you're going to go through this week. You're going to have a bunch of new signups. Yeah. You already have, I don't know the number of clients, but hundreds, thousands of clients already on GridPane. The new signups are getting the stuff as it's coming out. Am I interpreting correctly that the people that are already in the GridPane ecosystem, at some point they could expect to see like an email or something or a post or something say, hey, we gave all this value to these people that just came in, because obviously it was a deal and bonus and everything like that. But you guys have been valued here for a very long time. Here you go as well, because I think people might want to see that, like outsourcing training as an example. Is that going to happen or?
Correct. So like yesterday I dropped it in the Facebook group, but I didn't want to send an email. Yeah. So we did I didn't want to send a mass email,
right.
To 10,000 people. So we just emailed the people who had signed up at that point. And then we dropped it in our own existing group. Yeah. And so after the fact, people who signed up 5 years ago, I don't know as I'm going to just comp everything. But again, everything is available as paid add-ons. Any existing customers, we set it already on the Black Friday Cyber Monday page that if you just renewed, you were going to get access to all these things. So I mean, there's a lot of people who just automatically are renewing, and great, you get the good stuff. Yeah. And then I saw something that there was somebody that was like, well, I didn't get the link to the course. And we've had people who don't have the correct links. We've had people who slip through the cracks and they don't know where their login is for that course. So if that is the case, obviously reach out to support and we will send you the link to Study Ethics so you can download whatever course you should be eligible for. Yeah.
Love it. Cool. Okay, we definitely got some other ones here. Let me have a couple notes there too. To kind of wrap on obviously we have some more questions, but like to wrap on that part of it though, I had one question down here because I thought it would be great. So should people be worried? I think my answer to that is no. There's no reason to be like worried. Obviously, GridPane isn't going anywhere. Offering is kind of changing. If you're already in, you're good. You don't have to worry about a thing. If you're not already in, then your experience might kind of differ. But the long and short of it, as I still want to get to the GridPane Cloud thing because it's really interesting, and if as much as you can talk about that, I think maybe we should bring that up, obviously. But um, but if you're not already in, then like you're still gonna be able to get these same types of things. You know what I mean? But it's not, it's just not gonna be in its same format. So I wouldn't say people should
Right.
be, you know.
Yeah, so I just dropped this in the chat to you. I can't really actually see how to drop it in the public
I can
chat.
put it in. Yep.
But this is something that we put out yesterday because there were people who were concerned. I literally had somebody text me directly and say, "Do I need to be making contingency plans here?" Because we said we're going to pull this thing off the market. And no, the long and short of it is that we're becoming more profitable and driving more revenue literally every single day. Every single day, we get another massive WooCommerce site. We get another sign up. And so 2024 has been by far, probably by the time it's all said and done, we'll probably roughly 3x this year from just a pure top line revenue perspective. And I believe that 2025 is going to be even bigger in no small part because we're going to simplify our offering. Yeah. So it's going to be easier for people to come and literally just spin up a server in single digit minutes and then test the thing and see that, oh wow, this is actually way better than Cloudways. This is easier than Cloudways. Like we've never been easy or obvious, and that's been one of my biggest shortcomings. That's been one of the biggest mistakes I've made in building this thing. Is we built it for ourselves, and so we built all these dials and knobs and switches and all these capabilities for a DevOps person. But most of the people in WordPress, it's just over their heads. Yeah. It's a deeply technical product for an ecosystem that, even though we're all in IT and we all build websites, the average WordPress user, even the average WordPress sort of freelancer or person that would refer to themselves as a developer, I think is more of an integrator and doesn't actually get into the code, doesn't get into the weeds. And the interesting thing that I've learned over the last few years is that even in our own team, like we were working through something earlier today where our lead developer, who has been working on our application for 7 years, he had a DevOps problem and he couldn't solve it. And it turns out that programmers who know Laravel and Vue aren't necessarily DevOps people, and DevOps people are definitely not programmers. And so you have all these expertise, you have all these different levels of expertise, and our thing solves for a lot of needs for a sort of specific narrow need. But there's a lot of people in WordPress where it's just like, I just want to be able to stand up a site. Like the value of Kinsta to them is that they don't have to think about any of these things, right? And so they pay this massive ignorance tax, wherein they believe that ignorance is bliss, and it's actually like, no. Like the fact that you can't see the logs and you can't see what's going on and you can't see under the hood, this is actually where they hide all their mistakes and all of their margins. Yeah. And it's like, so in our world, yes, with great power there is great responsibility, but the reality is that you don't really have to know how to do much of anything in our world, but that's not really intuitive and obvious right now. And so that's something that we're solving for. And that's part of what it is that we're going to actually be demonstrating tomorrow, is just a completely reimagined vision of how it is that people will interact with our stuff, which is going to make it much, much easier for people to go, cool, I guess I can try this. I guess I should give this a dance.
Okay. So I definitely want to get into that, like I said, and I want to make sure people know how to see that, or where to go as well after we're done here. There's a lot of things that I want to kind of button up before we kind of talk about kind of what's coming too. And obviously some people probably already know the difference of this, but I know that when I came into as I was getting out of Cloudways into GridPane, I was trying to understand more about like self-managed hosting versus like managed hosting. And obviously GridPane in its current form is kind of more self-managed. You got more like customization. You can tweak more things, all that sort of stuff. But you have, again, more power, more responsibility, sort of, in a way, more customization, more responsibility. I do have a question about the offering and how it's going to change fully here. So like, I've personally never used PeakFreq, but I've heard things about it. I've seen it in my dashboard. And then like, if just like the high level on what you guys I know what you have now because you have the plans that we talked about earlier that are going away, and then there's PeakFreq, and then there's fully managed WordPress hosting. So talk me through like what, if anything, is changing with like these offerings as you move into this next generation of GridPane.
Yeah. So, so the short version is that GridPane Cloud is basically going to be what you could effectively think of as PeakFreq version 2. Yeah. And
Okay.
so what we did with PeakFreq is we wanted to have a very fast sort of um, Vultr high frequency powered version of our thing where people could just get the server as part of their purchase. Yeah. So this is one of the things that's like in Cloudways, they go, oh, okay, I'll just sign up for Cloudways and I'll just pick the server that I want, and they pay one bill, right? They don't like in our world, the way that we started, you had to sign up for GridPane, and then you also have to go and you have to sign up for OVH or Vultr or DigitalOcean or some other provider. Yeah.
Right.
And that's not obvious to people. And they also don't really know what to, to do. They literally see all those logos at the top and they go, well, which one? And so we go, well, just sign up for Vultr. And then they go, okay, well, which one? Like
Mm-hmm.
how big, where
Yeah.
should I put it? And it's like, well, where is your customer? And these are questions that are not, they're highly obvious to me, but they're not obvious to anybody else. They go, well, which city should I pick? And it's like, well, where are your customers? Well, they're in Chicago. Well, then don't pick Bangalore. Don't pick a different country. Pick something as close as possible to where your people physically are. And so right now, again, we have all these different plans. We have core that they can sign up for free. We have panel. We have developer plus. We have agency. And it's like, it's not, now we have PeakFreq, we have fully managed. Like, we need to highly simplify what it is that we're doing. And so
Mm-hmm.
in the future, again, starting around Q1, January 1st, give or take. I don't know what exactly that day is. Like, if January 1st is a Friday, we will definitely not be pushing anything on a Friday, because you
Yeah.
just don't do that.
Right.
So basically, a lot of these things are all going to sort of be consolidated into these two primary buckets, which is the way that you will start your engagement with GridPane is you'll sign up for GridPane Cloud, okay, and you'll just spin up a server, and the infrastructure will be baked in just like it is with PeakFreq right now. And then from there, you will be able to upgrade and add more sites and add different features, add Cloudflare Enterprise, add Fortress, add Relay, add OCP, like boom, 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 boom. Or you'll reach out to us and you'll basically say, I'm a large WooCommerce agent, or I'm a large WooCommerce customer. I have one e-commerce site that does $3 million a month. I'm currently hosted at blah, 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 and I hate it. And I'll go, oh, okay. And I'll just build a custom bespoke plan for you, wherein we will make all of the decisions and tweak all the knobs and dial in everything the way that you want it. And then again, their UI to us it won't matter what our UI looks like, because we're effectively going to become, just they'll text us or they'll Slack us. So they'll just say, hey guys, make the server bigger. Or if they want to, they can log in and make the server bigger, but they won't have to, because most of the people who are, again, are our best customers, they're very dialed in their process. They're very dialed in their agency. They just need somebody that they can trust, to where if they wanted to get on the server, they could. If they wanted to read the logs, they could. And they deeply value that transparency, that the box is sitting right there and it's yours if you want it. But they don't want to have to think about any of these things. So they just Slack us a message and say, hey, stand up another $5,000 server, and we take it from there. So
Yeah.
I don't know if
So
hopefully that does answer your question. Is we're just going to be consolidating basically down to those two things. So everyone will be able to get started with us for as little as, call it $25 a month, something like that. Like I think we're not going to go the lowest price point that Cloudways currently serves, because it's not a good idea to run a server that small. It just isn't. So we're going to recommend at minimum probably a two core 4 gigabyte server. And so I think, call it $25 roughly is probably fair fair market value for that, you know, in a sort of cloud managed context that people are used to at Cloudways. And then if you need something more complex and bespoke, you'll build and add your add-ons, or you'll just go straight to, okay, it's a $35,000 a year engagement, you know, because that's exactly what you need, you know.
Gotcha. Okay, so obviously we talked about this. These are going away. If you guys want this, make sure you head over to GridPane now and get these while they're still in this form. You still get all the line items, everything like that. Just doing a little recap, slight recap too, for anybody that's just jumping in. But you can still get all of these line items, and the technology is still going to exist at GridPane. GridPane is not going anywhere, but these plans at these price points are no longer going to be a thing after Black Friday, Cyber Monday here, and everything like that. Moving forward, timeline sort of ish to be determined, right? But like you're going to be kind of the last month of the year here, obviously kind of like bearing down and, you know, dealing with all new customers and things like that. And then in the beginning of next year is when a lot of this stuff is really going to start to ramp up. PeakFreq. So like this will be gone effectively. PeakFreq will be effectively gone. It'll be like evolved and rebranded to GridPane Cloud.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
And
exactly. And any existing customers they're not going to have to make any changes. Okay. As per always, existing customers don't have to move. They don't have to migrate. They don't have to update DNS. You know, it's basically just going to be us rebranding PeakFreq as GridPane Cloud. And then, existing servers will just stay as they are with no changes required whatsoever. But then we're also going to be introducing new capabilities and new cool things on the GridPane Cloud platform as we go forward. And again, all existing customers at any tier, they will have access to those things also, you know? Right. And the biggest difference is that, you know, any of the available upgrades, like right now, again, if you wanted to add more sites beyond 1,000 on current agency and have us cover them with 360, like you already have the best price by far. You know, and so new people signing up for 360, they might spend, you know, $25 a site just to have that proactive support on those sites, because we literally, if your site falls over at 2:00 in the morning, like we're proactively remediating the problems, even if you're not available, you know, and this is something that you can't get literally anywhere else. Like this is proactive management of sites and servers. It should be table stakes, in my opinion. It should be what everybody is doing. But it's like if you knock a site over at Kinsta, like guess what happens? Nothing. Well, your site goes down and it stays down. You know, because this is one of the things that's always bothered me about managed hosting. It's like if the site falls down, and they literally, you have to go tell them that the site fell down. Then what exactly? What are they managing? You know, like they're managing to rip you off. Is what they're doing. Like so that thing, like that was a feature that we built that we thought was going to be very, very valuable to lots and lots of people, and it really wasn't. You know, but for every single person on agency, it's essential for them. Like they put it on all their sites, you know? And so we need to be charging more money for that kind of stuff, you know? And so we will, you know?
So, and one other thing that I forgot to mention. So these plans were, again, like self-managed. We kind of talked about that, kind of like the panel type server hosting panel type situation. PeakFreq is managed, more of a, right? Fair to say?
So it's managed server, just like Cloudways. Okay. So Cloudways, you know, they're your managed cloud, however they phrase it. But if you look into the fine details of their support, they do not provide site and application specific support. Okay. And this is something that you can pay. I think it's $500 a month to add that capability at Cloudways to get advanced support. And this is something that current Dev Plus customers and even Dev LTD customers that haven't paid us in 5 years are still getting right now, you know. And Cloudways, you know, and no knock against Cloudways. They've built a fantastic, you know, thing. I think that value for money, it's not nearly as good as what it is that we've put into the world. But you know, whatever, they're charging an extra $500 a month for something that I just like include, which is just really good support, you know? So right now, if your server fell over, for example, on PeakFreq, we would see it, we would know that it had happened, and we would remediate it. Yeah, we would to the best of our ability, we would remediate what was going on. Like if your drive was filling up with backups or something like that, we would remediate that. But if you had a code-based specific problem, that is not included by default. We do generally end up providing that level of support anyway, but we won't guarantee that we provide that level of support, because a lot of people who run stuff on PeakFreq, they end up just overloading their boxes with dozens and dozens of sites, even though we send them notifications multiple times a week to say, hey, you really have too many sites on this server. We're going to have to remove, automated remediation and like monitoring of this server, because you're just packing this server with too many sites. And so we've got to figure out how to rectify those things, so that our support isn't swamped,
So with the second evolution of PeakFreq, that's going to be GridPane Cloud. Is any of that change by default on those, like that offer?
No. So it's going to be everything as it was on PeakFreq will be functionally the same on GridPane Cloud. It's just going to be potentially faster, like higher frequency CPUs. Like we're testing all of these Epic 4004 and Epic 9000 servers, and so it's going to be even faster stuff than what we have right now, and we're going to be adding more value into it. But by default, you won't get super high level, site specific support at those prices. If you look at our managed pricing, fully managed, that's more in line with what it is that things are going to be priced like. And an interesting aside, if you're keeping score at home, is one of the ways to greatly improve your margins and improve the cash flow and the viability of your business is to have per year billing. And what this does is, there's a lot of people that is like, well, I can't pay $5,000 a year for a website, but I could pay $500 a month. That person that can pay $500 a month is roughly 10 times more likely to churn at any point in a given year, because they have actually 11 more opportunities to do so. They have the opportunity to churn every single month. Okay. Right. And so when we are dealing with agencies that are currently hosted someplace else, they're already spending more than this, or they're spending something in line with this, but they want better, they want faster, they want more. If they can pay $5,000, $7,000, $20,000 up front, that's a good indicator to you that this might be a really good customer to work with, because they're very serious about the value that their website or that their business, creates. And it's like the easiest customers to work with right now, the best customers to work with right now, are people who are literally printing money going through Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because there is no number that you can throw out to them. Like we literally have people coming to us where they can't get a big enough server at any provider. They can't get a 512 thread server, from Cloudways, because Cloudways doesn't have anything larger than a 96 core server, and so that person will instantly pay whatever it is, because I can solve a problem that they literally can't solve anyplace else.
Okay, so I think we're really close on this now. So PeakFreq, again, upgraded, rebranded to GridPane Cloud, essentially, right?
Yeah.
There might be some differences, obviously, but more or less that's what's happening. Now, you're going to have two offerings when all the dust settles. That's going to be one of them. I want to come back. I want to dig into that more. But the other one is going to be bespoke, or something similar to that naming, right? Is bespoke, from what I'm hearing, it's going to be one of two things. Is bespoke going to be like rebranded, upgraded agency, or is it going to be like a rebranded, upgraded managed hosting? Like if I was the level that I had needed your bespoke offering, I'm going to have access to everything. Like it's going to be more of a self-managed experience with obviously like white glove type support, or what's that actually look like by default? I mean, I'm sure they all differ because there's a lot of customization at that level, but who needs that? Obviously, I think maybe you're going to know if you need that, but like, what's that look like?
Yeah. So I would say, a safe bet is for anybody that's spending, $1,000, $2,000, and up per month on hosting right now, that's going to be somebody that's going to be a good fit for Bespoke. Now, that could mean that they have just one website that's very, very large. And again, we regularly are helping people that are spending, between $2,000 and $15,000 or $20,000 a month or more on a single site. We're obviously a really good solution for those people. But it could also be an agency. It could be an agency owner that is hosting dozens or hundreds or thousands of sites that wants to have, that wants to leverage us as like our agency partner, like our certified agency partner plan, which is basically like, like, oh, you're an agency owner in Dallas, and you want to attract more hosting clients from around the area. Well, you can leverage our domain authority to be featured in our agency portfolio as a certified agency partner, and we can help you rank. We can literally help you rank for what it is that you want to rank for. Yeah, and so Bespoke obviously will be, some of it will be, a refinement of what agency is right now. And some of it will be people who just literally need to host one website that gets tons and tons of traffic that they need fully customized. And they want to have more transparency and more autonomy, but it's not going to be self-managed. It's going to be very, very high touch, because that's like at the end of the day, one of the things that we've learned is that really the only people who are qualified to use all of the tools in GridPane is my team.
Right.
Yeah. There's literally, I can think of one guy, and he's going to be he's the 8-figure agency that I'm going to be talking to on Cyber Monday. Him and his team is probably the one agency that I'm aware of where I would actually trust them to have effectively unfettered access to all of our tools and actually use them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whereas in most cases, it's like, it should only be my team that's actually getting way into the weeds, and doing really complex configuration and tweaking, because it turns out that, you build an entire team of DevOps dweebs, and then you build all the tooling for those dweebs, and you write all the documentation for all those things, and you deal with the tickets, tens of thousands of tickets every year. It turns out that you're probably going to be pretty good at solving these problems, So in a lot of cases, we don't want your customers touching any of these things, and we almost don't even want you touching any of these things, right. So that's what Bespoke will be. They'll have the option to do that, but generally they'll go, hey guys, I'm going to be on Shark Tank. What do I do? And we go, don't touch anything. If you want to, here's these docs. If you want to run your own load test, go ahead, or just don't, just let us actually do this. Because we've literally solved that problem probably a dozen times now. We've had people on whatever Dragon's Den, whatever the Canadian version is. We've had people on Shark Tank. We've had people that it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be on so-and-so's thing and they're going to blow me up on TikTok. What do we do? Well, you get out of the way. That's the answer.
Okay. So if I'm hearing that correctly, right now, the plans that like we're most accustomed to hearing about and using at GridPane, like something like I have, when you say that all the tooling in there is like, borderline, expert use only, right? Are you talking about the stuff that I currently have access to? And then the follow-up to that would be, is it fair to say that GridPane currently offers self-managed hosting solutions, but moving forward, legacy maybe, but moving forward, you're really not going to offer self-managed hosting solutions. Is that like fair to say?
No, actually. So again, because we're not getting rid of anything, when we launch GP Cloud, you're going to have root on that box. Okay. So you can light yourself on fire if you want to. Okay. You can burn things down and break things. And within reason, we'll still help you pick up the pieces, Mm-hmm. Like if somebody keeps burning themselves down, then we'll say, look, we're no longer providing support for this box, or we're no longer providing support for this account, and we have in a literal, I can count on one hand the number of times that we've had to do that in the last 7 years. Yeah. And so you will still be able to do that when you sign up for GP Cloud in the middle of 2025, right? And also, when you sign up for GP Cloud, whenever, you'll also be able to have a custom server upgrade. So you can run something at Hetzner that's not GridPane Cloud. You can run whatever you want. You can run a Raspberry Pi in your parents' basement. Like, I don't care, like, you'll have that option, and you'll just pay to have those custom servers. So you can do fully you can go all the way to this degree. You can run Laravel apps inside of GridPane on a custom server in a data center that I've never connected to, and you'll be able to choose to do that. Yeah. And certainly all legacy customers, you're a Dev Plus customer, you're a pro, a panel LTD customer. You'll have access to all of that stuff and more, but you won't have to pay. You will have already paid one time, and you'll have all the cool things. So the biggest reason, and just not that this question was asked, but the biggest reason to do one last LTD in this context is, for those of you that don't know, there was a question about Automatic's fundraising, which I'll touch on briefly in just a second. But a lot of people don't know this, but like when I launched GridPane, it was 100% self-funded by my wife and I. Yeah. And I debated for a very, very, very long time as to whether or not I was going to raise money. And for all kinds of reasons, we ultimately decided that we would raise money. And in a lot of ways, it made it possible for us to keep going and keep building and keep investing. But in a lot of ways, it was also incredibly painful. And I have my regrets about almost every major business decision has its pros and cons. Deciding to raise money, unfortunately, is one of those, I forget what Jeff Bezos calls them, either they're type 1 or type 2 decisions. It's the decisions where you can go through this door and you can turn around and come back. This was not one of those types of decisions. Yeah. When you go through this door, you cannot change your mind and decide to turn around and go back. But long story short, we were going to raise money from VCs here in Michigan, and I was literally this close to getting my eyes taken out. And by that, I mean, I was this close to selling a third of the company for peanuts. Yeah, for not a lot of money at all. And we ran an LTD in 2019, the first one. And we thought maybe we'll sell a few of these and we'll get a few months of runway. Yeah. Maybe this'll keep us alive for a little while. And we sold a lot. And in the span of 1 week, we made more money than we were going to fundraise. Yeah. And it was massively transformational for the company. And it was the best promotion that I ever ran. And it was the best deal that I ever made for anybody. Again, there's people that have never paid another nickel after that, And as part of this decision to sort of take these things off the market, I decided that we would do one last deal like that, where it's like the origin story of GridPane is woven through with that LTD, And then the crazy thing that happened after that is I jokingly, there was a bunch of people who, after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, said, "Hey, I spent all my money on Christmas presents for my kids," which I knew to be a lie because I saw them saying all the other LTDs that they bought. But they're like, "Will you bring back the LTD, next year? Will you ever do it again?" And I said, "Yeah, we'll do it on April 1st. And I was totally fucking around. I was totally making a joke, and nobody got it. And so fast forward to March 2020, and we're in the middle of COVID. People are literally starting to get sick and they're losing their jobs and people are dying and it's scary and we're all locked in and we don't know what's going on. And people start coming into support and they're going, "So when's the LTD? What time are you launching it?" And I'm like, I was just messing around. And Sean's like, "Yeah, that's not going to fly. Like, these people are going to get pissed and there's going to be pitchforks, And so we're like, okay, I guess we got to do this again. And it was so funny. I remember we sent the email at like 9 a.m. EST on April 1st. And the very first email I got back was somebody saying, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Nobody's going to pay this money. This is ridiculous. $3,000. You're nuts. You're out of your mind." Mm-hmm. And then 24 hours later, we had done over 6 figures. And it, a lot of people really wanted it, Mm-hmm. And so over the years, we've We've done a couple more of those promotions or whatever. And I think that for the right SaaS business that's in the right place at the right time, that's profitable, through other means, and or has the ability to have expansion revenue. Like, I'm going to have a lot of people that sign up for this panel LTD that then choose to pay for GridPane Cloud also. They'll want that capability. And so I'll have the opportunity to have expansion revenue through them for the right type of business and at the right price point. It's absolutely viable. Most of the people who say, oh, LTDs are stupid, they don't have 7 years of Stripe history to look at. And I do. So like, I know my numbers cold, and I know that it's like, in a lot of cases, there are certain customers that they would have churned long before they ever got to the total contribution margin and dollar amount of if they just gave me all that money up front. And so, like, I think that in a lot of ways, we know more about LTDs than almost anybody in the ecosystem, other than maybe AppSumo. And one of my close friends is running his like third AppSumo right now during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And we talk every single day, and so maybe in the future, we'll teach people how to do these things, because we're two of the only founders that I'm aware of that have done, 7 figures plus in this context. And most people that do these things make a lot of mistakes. And some of them, as we see on AppSumo in particular, they crash and burn, and it's unfortunate when that shit happens. But if you don't know how to manage the inflow of customers and support, it can be very, very damaging to a business. So,
well, like I said, this is an incredible business lesson, not just explanation of what's going on here. So I appreciate that context. Hopefully you guys do in the chat as well. We have some rapid fire questions I think we can get to. First one is a lighthearted one. Where can people get GridPane hats? I have one, but I'm special. So where?
So the short version is that we give them away at every WordCamp that we go to. And but we've realized now that we actually do need to just put up a merch store, and just let people buy this stuff. Like, we have ideas for new cool t-shirts every single day, and it's like, it's humbling in a lot of ways that people actually want to wear our swag. And like, one of the coolest things that's ever happened is one of our agency customers, actually, he reached out to me. He was one of the first people that ever had a hat. And he said, hey, somebody just stopped me in the Target in Evanston, Illinois. So it's this like suburb outside of Chicago. Yeah. He's like, somebody just stopped me in the Target and asked if I worked for GridPane. And I'm like, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. That there was a customer or a fan of the brand that stopped another customer and was like, oh my God, do you work at GridPane? And it's like, no, I'm a customer. I'm like, oh, cool. And it was like that, like, I was on cloud nine I mean, that was years ago. And I still just get giddy over that story. One of the questions that you popped up was about the automatic investment. Yeah. So I'll touch on that briefly. So for those that don't know, as part of thankfully the small amount of fundraising that we've done, Automatic did make an investment in GridPane. We announced it actually on my 42nd birthday. So that was a little over 2 years ago, on the first day of WordCamp US in San Diego. And we're still, they're still on the cap table. We're still interacting with them. We also had a technical partnership with them that we worked on for quite a while on the WP Cloud product, that we still have some of our customers on that. That never quite took off the way that we wanted it to, through no fault of either Automatic or GridPane. The biggest problem with WP Cloud is that there are no options, there are no dials, there are no, like the firewall has no settings. You can't even turn it on or off. It's just on, And so a lot of the things that we show people, a lot of the things that we like even teach our team about, you can't do any of those things in WP Cloud. And so it's a traditional walled garden that like most, kins to WP Engine, those kinds of places, that's what people are used to there. And that's what they're trying to sell with WP Cloud. And so it's just not intuitive, and it just doesn't follow the paradigm of our world, where it's like, get in, look at the server, do whatever you want to do with it, have 900 different settings, And so there's a little bit of context there. The reason that they don't, I can't speak specifically to the hosting team at .org and .com. The reason that they don't refer to us on that page, I think primarily has to do with the fact that they only want to list people there that are either, in the case of Pressable, that Pressable is a wholly owned subsidiary of Automatic. Yeah. GridPane is not. They have no control over us. They have a very, very small piece of us. And they also want them to be very, very large. Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine Bluehost gets hundreds, they might get hundreds of signups a day. I don't know. I have no data on that. I can't speak to any of that. But I think that they want those offerings to be very consumer friendly. And again, right now we're not. We're developer focused. We're complicated. We're confusing. You can't just sign up and get one site. That's not how we're built. And so I don't think that them putting GridPane there today would make a lot of sense. Now, maybe once we've got GP Cloud, maybe that'll change. Maybe they'll decide hey, this is a very straightforward direct to consumer offering, and GridPane obviously has demonstrated they can handle the flow of traffic. But I think more than anything, they're trying to only highlight and only drive eyeballs to people who can handle the lowest possible budgets and the lowest barrier to entry from a technical standpoint. And we don't do either of those things currently.
Well, yeah, you don't do it yet. Sounds like kind of potentially a move. And I think there's a couple more things. I know the answer to this question. Are you planning on supporting other hosting providers other than cloud compute? I like VPS. I think what Tarek is asking here is basically the custom server add-on, effectively.
Yeah.
Is that how you interpret that?
Yeah, I think that's what he means. I'm not sure if they're talking about like different sort of technologies like Docker, Kubernetes. I don't know if they're talking about traditional shared. Right now you can basically do shared hosting in our world, but we obviously want to steer people more towards, in a perfect world, you would do one site per server. But obviously, we have customers all over the world. They have customers all over the world. Sometimes the pricing parity of a developing economy, that just the unit economics just don't make sense. Right. So yeah, we will always pretty much be a shop wherein you can connect to one or more different infrastructure providers. In the case of GridPane Cloud, it's just going to be our servers, so you don't have to pick another person. We're going to stand up our own VPSs and our own bare metal.
They're actually going to be yours. You're not using Vultr, you're not using DigitalOcean. It's going to be
so in the beginning, obviously, a lot of the PeakFreq stuff will transition. And they'll be part of GridPane Cloud. And so there'll be some of that. It really just depends on what is the right tool for the job. Yeah. So for example, if you need a 384 core server, to run some WooCommerce website, guess what? You can't run that at Vultr because they don't have a 384 core server.
Okay.
They just don't.
Let me clarify that though real quick, because I think it's a really important point. So when I back to my story, when I came from Cloudways to GridPane, it was kind of cool that I could at least get closer to owning the thing, just in case anything ever happened to GridPane. I could my shit is still on the box that I can go log into or do whatever I need to or whatever. I have access to it, right? So that was enticing. So but what you're saying now is moving forward with. Are you? Well, let me ask a qualifying question. Are you right now I don't know what the actual term would be, because I would classify you as a hosting company, but are you right now, do any of your offerings, any GridPane customer, do they have bare metal actual boxes that you guys own? Are there any people that host on GridPane that actually are hosting on not Vultr, not DigitalOcean, but actually GridPane data center or whatever? Does that exist right now or no?
No. So the short answer to that question, it's kind of yes and no. So we don't own any data centers, and surprise, surprise, most infrastructure providers like Vultr, they don't own many or as as many as you would think. Okay. So Vultr, they don't own a data center in Israel. They lease cage space in a data center in
Oh, okay.
Israel.
Well, yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
they own they
But
own
they own
part
the
of the data.
hardware. Yeah, they
Yeah, for
own the
sure. The
hardware,
hardware.
and they
Gotcha.
put them, they basically, they have teams of people in Piscataway, New Jersey, building half racks of servers, shrink wrapping them, putting them in a pallet, special container, and then they're flying them to Bangalore. They're flying them to Tel Aviv. They're flying them to wherever. So they own the hardware, but they don't necessarily own the data center. In our case, we don't own the data center or the hardware. We have not yet decided to get into the hardware business. We may do that in the future, but to be honest, it literally makes more sense to lease things generally. But we've definitely looked at co-location as well. And we've looked at, do we want to plunk down hundreds of thousands of dollars so that we can own exactly what we want? We absolutely are investigating that. But right now, the answer today is we have bare metal with all kinds of different providers where we're 100% in control of it. The client does not have root because we're managing everything for them, and we don't want things to fall over. And it's very, very production, like mission critical. But that hardware is not owned by us. We lease it from an infrastructure provider that we have long-term relations with and long-term contracts with. And then we're turning around and exposing that hardware. And that's what we'll be doing more and more and more as we go into GridPane Cloud. But there will be scenarios in which the customer comes to me and says, I need something in Chicago. Well, I know JJ and his team at Vultr have stuff already stood up in Chicago, and I can message them. I can message the CEO of Vultr. It's a big $200 million a year company. And I can ask, hey, can you put another pallet of servers to go here? And I can get those, I have those relationships. And so I don't know that there will ever be super feasible for us to literally, own millions of dollars worth of hardware. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
Understandable. Yeah. So I guess my question then would be just like, obviously all this stuff is brand new. It hasn't really even been like executed fully yet. Like it hasn't been like fully launched, so to speak. But like hypothetically in June of next year, right? Just playing a prediction game. June of next year, somebody wants to sign up for GridPane Cloud.
Yep.
They're going to go to the website. They're going to click the button or whatever. They're going to pick like a server that, like maybe you have like some sort of thing. It's like, oh, how many websites you have? Whatever. Like they pick like the second lowest server offering.
Yep.
The actual box that they are getting is a VPS in whatever data center they pick or whatever. But like if they, maybe they don't care, which is I kind of want to like wrap kind of with that piece of the conversation. But with that question in mind or that scenario in mind, maybe they don't care. But assuming they do, because I would care.
Yeah,
it would be like, especially because my past with GridPane, like I'm owning GridPane's technology like above the box, basically. That all makes sense, like the managed server aspect of it. But the actual server, the box, are you saying it is going to be Vultr? It is going to be DigitalOcean? It's not going to be them? You're not going to have access? Like you're not going to have access? You're not going to have to go anywhere? You're not going to have to log into like a Vultr account or anything like that? And it's just not going to matter, basically, who actually owns the box? Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah. So both. As per always, the answer is both.
Yeah, it depends.
There will be some sites, there will be some servers in which maybe it'll be Vultr because it will just be, that's the data center, that's the fastest servers that I can get. Pretty much what it's going to be is it's going to be the fastest servers that I can get in a given data center. And it will become more and more, GridPane will own it and you'll just pay us and you won't care. But you also will be able to say, I want a custom server. I want a custom server that you physically own it. It's you can buy, old remnant servers and stuff off of eBay for like hundreds of dollars. And if you have a good connection in your own house, if you have redundant connections, you could run your own stuff and you could use GridPane to orchestrate it. And you'll just pay a custom server upgrade fee. It'll just be an add-on that you just choose that. And probably we'll get enough demand where people go, I want to own the server. I don't want GridPane Cloud at all. And then we'll go, oh, okay, here's a custom server plan. That's just, it's $50. It's like you can have, $50 worth of server infrastructure from me and everything's managed and. Or if you want all the knobs and dials and everything else, you just pay whatever the number is,
Got it.
And And again, you'll be able to upgrade and add things and add support seats and, do whatever you want to do.
Well, I'm sure that's going to evolve. So we'll definitely have another stream, and we'll talk more about that when it's
Sure,
fully there. We go
sure.
through everything. Got a couple questions here. David Doss says, "What does that mean for the knowledge base? Will it get updated?" I'm assuming the answer is yeah. You're going to update
I mean,
everything
all of
as
the
things
things,
roll out.
yeah, we're not going to take anything away, right?
Yeah.
So every existing customer, like all of those things are still going to stay the same. There'll be new ways of doing things with GridPane Cloud, but you'll be able to have root. And so like all the CLI commands and where all the configurations are and where all the settings are, all of that stuff will stay the same. Like we've spent millions of dollars building this thing. We spent years and years and years writing all that documentation. Like we're not going to reinvent that stuff for anything.
Right.
Like there will be more, as there always is, but we're not going to take anything away because we've built all the right tools for the job. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So got another one here, just kind of more of a statement, but kind of an interesting scenario. So I'm wondering if this, like, what your thoughts on this. I'll consider GridPane Cloud in the future. Right now, I paid for 25 gigabyte managed hosting $50 a year. Is that right? Running dozens of sites, and I don't see the advantages of paying 100x more. I'm not sure if that's on with you guys or with a different, but
No, I mean that could be. I have no idea where that is, but I do know, for example, that that yes, that is possible. Like what you are describing there, it is possible to have unit economics that are like that. Okay, and this is literally what it is that I'm selling people: the ability to turn around and create. Right. So like somebody, I actually am messaging a little bit with somebody. There was somebody on X that they zeeted out something about like, could so-and-so do pricing parity, be the second or the third company to do pricing parity. And the answer is like, I can't really do that right now. But I can empower an agency in India. I can empower an agency owner in Mumbai to create the most cost-effective hosting that India has ever seen, and actually there's a good number of hosting companies that people don't even realize that all along it was GridPane behind the scenes, and so it's just, we're just making it, we're not taking that ability away. We're just making it, we're just pricing the value metrics differently and getting more of the value out of that relationship. Yeah.
yeah. So D123 says, so it sounds like we can run our own choice too. E.g. Hetzner, I think D123 came in late. So yeah, so that's just what would be the add-on type thing. Like, I mean,
right. So
specific...
if right now anybody that is a customer of GridPane, they can get that. Yeah. And it's like, you don't have to buy the LTD. You don't have to, like, the panel plan monthly, $100 a month is still available. And it will be for few more days here, and we're going to get people that are going to, this always happens, but we're going to get people to change their mind. We're going to get people at the last minute that they're going to be like, I missed it, or I could, and from just a support burden standpoint, we're going to have to go and have a grace period of a couple of weeks probably, in which we'll let people upgrade and downgrade and do whatever they want to do, because we have to process refunds. So it's not like we're just going to shutter things immediately, because that would just create a support nightmare for us. So within reason, we're going to give people some grace, but the idea is generally, like, again, the best time to sign up for us was 7 years ago. The second best time is today, if you haven't, haven't already.
Just another knowledge base one. This is more nuanced. Will the knowledge base be updated for self-managed customers to have all the features like on the updates to the stack? Because now you are going to be kind of creating an interesting scenario, right? Because you're going to be like basically serving a lot of managed moving forward, and like people that I really want to get into this. This is I kind of want to save that for finale, but you're going to be your client base. We talked about this on our call, but to hint at it for a second, like your client base may change a little bit, at least in my opinion, because of the way that that GridPane has been marketed and who it's been marketed to versus moving forward now. Just throughout this conversation, we can kind of tell that like it's more for like, I don't want to say like the average WordPress user, but probably closer to that now. People that don't want to play with all the knobs and buttons and toggles, and I totally get that. So, I mean, just to answer this question though, like how, I mean, I'm assuming you could do that at least for a certain period of time. I don't know what that looks like, or if you've thought about the knowledge base side of it at all for people that are still on the legacy programs.
Yeah. I mean, again, like nothing is going away.
Yeah.
So everybody that's already on, I mean, we have thousands of customers already, like we're not going to make it difficult for them to do something that they're already doing,
For
so
sure.
like nothing is going away for any existing customers. And again, nothing's going away actually for new customers either, or for people upgrading. It's just the bundles of everything and that pricing is going away. Yeah. And so already right now, the reason that we have the domain authority that we do is because that documentation is meticulously maintained. It's meticulously updated. Yeah. It's constantly being added onto. And it's like, it's part of what it is, that it's just like, when somebody's like, well, I can just get on this new thing or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but you can't do 98% of the things that you can do in our world. Just go and look how many, just look at the number of articles they have, print out the documentation. When the manual is, 5 phone books thick, versus it's a pamphlet, what can you actually do there? And again, the appeal in those cases is most people don't want to know how to do anything. They have a handful of sites. They don't get a lot of traffic. They don't need any of the settings that we have, And so you brought this point up, but I don't think I answered it well before, is like, is your current plan too involved for the average user? No, absolutely not. Like, you can get into the weeds on all those things, but most people who like get into GridPane and they just walk through like an onboarding with us, they get to the end at like, they built their first server, and then they built their first site, and then they point the DNS, and then they migrate a site in, and then they go, okay, but now what do I have to do? And it's like, nothing.
Yeah.
Just don't, people constantly ask me, what if I don't know anything about servers? And it's like, great, don't touch them. You don't have to, and part of the problem that people see with GridPane and the misunderstanding, it's entirely our fault. Again, it's my fault. In the beginning, you had to get on the servers. You had to get on because the commands were there, but the UI stuff wasn't there, or the capability was there, but you had to go and manually adjust the configs. And now all of those things basically have made it into the UI so that, and made it into the API so that you don't have to do things, like all of it is automated. All of it is just happening. And it's going to become even more that way. Like once people see even what I'm dropping tomorrow and what's coming in December, like the things that are going to get easier and easier and easier and be more and more straightforward, like if OpenAI has proven anything to us, it's that the interface that people want in the world is natural language. So do you want a control panel with 900 knobs and dials? Or do you just want to go, Alexa, build me a new site in Chicago? And so if you're wondering what we're working on, one only need to look at all of the growth in AI and large language models to see. I think that that's where the world wants to go. They don't want a UI. They want to just walk around texting and getting a result, And so maybe that's what we'll see.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to highlight this comment from David House here saying I should become a journalist because
you should.
just with the questions, everything like that. I appreciate that, guys. Hopefully you're getting something out of this. If you are, make sure to smash the like button. I have one more question that I'm seeing here. If you guys have more, I don't know, Patrick, if you have more time, but I kind of want to.
I have a few more minutes before my phone dies.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Literally.
We'll wrap here. We'll wrap here real quick then. So then this is the last question, but I think it parallels directly back into, I want to pull up your blog post again. So Braden asked earlier, what's the update on, what's the status update on UpdateSafely? How many people are using it? I don't want to invest time in something that I find out doesn't work fully and stuff like that. I'm going to let you answer that, but I also want to pull this up because I think you're moving into territory now that's kind of interesting, because I feel like that might go directly into, I'm guessing, might go directly into like more of a managed experience where like you have people that more of a slight set it and forget it maybe to a degree, but like it's a full experience of there's a lot of features and a lot of the stuff just does things for you. And I think you have so much opportunity in that space, especially with the people that would attract. So I'll drop this link again in the chat here. And I saw these really cool glimpses at the UI here from what I can tell. So I'll just let you kind of riff on that a little bit because I think there's a lot of, to talk about there, but I want to be cognizant of how much time you have with the phone.
Yeah. So short answer to Braden, I don't know the answer to the question in terms of how many people are using UpdateSafely. I do know that we still haven't pulled it out of beta, and I do know that you have to, if you want to use it to the fullest of its abilities, you have to actually manually make, I think it's one setting on a server, but it has functionally not changed in at least a year. In terms of material, like we had to ship something or fix something. And so the short answer is I, if it seems like it would be valuable to you, I think certainly give it a shot. And if it's not working to your ability, or you're not seeing what you want, then message us in support and say, hey, what am I not seeing here? Yeah. I will say that one of the biggest problems with tools like UpdateSafely is that you come up with this idea, and it's a really good idea, that you just automatically have visual comparison of, this is what the live site looks like. This is what the site looks like if it's been updated, and what's the visual regression between those things. That's incredibly valuable, but it's also incredibly intensive in terms of resources on a server. And so the biggest problem that people had with it is it was like, yeah, you can't run it on anything smaller than a 4 gig server. And people are like, wah. And it's like, well, okay, then don't use it. Like if you want to, like, you should not run something like that on a production server that you have live traffic going to, and run it on a really anemic server. Like I would argue that that's, something smaller than 4 gigs anyway is anemic, too anemic for production, because I want to build sites that can get a lot of traffic. Yeah. And ideally make the register ring a lot. So, but to your point, Mark, I do think that, yes, absolutely, there's a lot of opportunity for us to make it a lot easier for everybody to do everything. And that would be very valuable to people. And if we can create value, if you can solve people's problems, you generally get your own problem solved. So certainly things that you would want to see, we generally would want to make, because we know that they will be valuable for people in the future. So
100%. I dropped this link to this blog post if you guys want to see these for yourselves here. I'll try to pull them up as best as I can on screen. Patrick, I believe these are we saying this is kind of like glimpses at the GridPane Cloud UI? Is that what
it could be? It could be.
It could be.
So
maybe
So
not.
I will drop one little tidbit here and actually answer another question about the affiliate program. First, I will say, yes, we do have an affiliate program, and all of you should go and sign up through Mark's link so that he can make oodles and oodles and oodles of money.
Oh, shucks, thanks.
And but I'll also, tomorrow we will be re-releasing the affiliate program and opening it up. It is open for any existing customer. Okay, that's the only restriction. Before, we had people actually you have to like apply, and now we're going to make it self-serve in terms of being able to go and sign up, because we want people to be able to tell their friends, because these things are going away. Yeah. And so the best person to get somebody into the GridPane ecosystem is somebody that's already in the GridPane ecosystem. Yeah. So we will also be dropping that tomorrow as well. And so if you're not in the Facebook group, you should get in the Facebook group, because that is where I will be dropping that. But we're also going to send out an email tomorrow to everybody that's on the platform. So you can literally sign up for Core, which is free. It doesn't require anything. Just scroll down on the pricing page, look start for free, sign up for Core. If you do that, then you'll get our emails, which means you'll get an email tomorrow when we say Happy Thanksgiving. Super grateful for all of you. And here's the cool thing that we've got. And we will see more of this, what you're showing right now, actually live in action.
Love it. Yeah, definitely go check that out. I dropped the affiliate link in the description. If you guys use that, I'd be eternally grateful. If not, just go to gridpane.com, scoop it yourself. The link to this, like I said, this blog post is in the chat if you want to check that out. I think we have another question here. If I want to benefit from GridPane Black Friday deals right now when I'm starting progressing the agency, what deal would be the most fittable or matching? I guess that if we're benefiting starting progressing the agency. So
sure.
I mean, I guess if we were going to go to the deals, so to speak.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say, and I don't really talk about this publicly. Our Developer Plus plan is by far in my opinion, the best bang for your buck that we have, period, full stop. And a big part of the reason that we are taking it off of the market is because I have people reach out to me and they schedule that agency call that's $18,000 a year. And then they get on the phone with me and they go, so what all is included in this Dev Plus thing? And it's like a lot. And they go, yeah, but I've only got like 100 sites. I don't need 1,000 sites. I only need 100 sites. And then I tell them on the call, well, then you don't actually need agency. You need this, And so right now at that price, that is, in my opinion, the best thing that we've ever released, that we've ever made available, that we've packed more value into. We're going to be adding even more value into it tomorrow when we show the new things and unveil the new bonuses and tell everybody about the cool stuff. It is by far the best plan that we have. And it is so good that I need to take it off the market because it's too good for what it is, and it cannibalizes what would otherwise be an $18,000 plus sale, which is now going to be, even higher than that. It cannibalizes those all the time. And so I'm regularly telling people, yeah, you don't need this. This is complete overkill for what you have. You should just sign up for that thing. So if you are a growing agency or you're aspirational around growing an agency, I think that the Developer Plus plan is the best deal that we have here out of all of these things. If you are a large scale agency, obviously agency at $6,000 off for the first year, it is a no-brainer. If you're spending thousands and thousands per month on hosting, then you need to schedule an agency conversation with me. And if you're sort of on the fence and you don't know, you should just schedule the call anyway, because worst case scenario, you're just going to not take the deal. And best case scenario, you're going to go, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is a slam dunk. Yes, I want to rank for, Cleveland web developer because I'm going to be a GridPane certified partner, yes, great. Check that out, but if you just want to pay one time to have the ability to host as many sites as you want, boy, panel, pretty appetizing, So we've tried to make something for everybody. And again, we don't have anything special that we're running for PeakFreq, but PeakFreq is already a better value than Cloudways. It already just is intrinsically, just dollar for dollar. It's a better value than what you get on Cloudways. So there is something for everybody. There's something for every budget.
Yep, I am a Dev Plus customer, so I can highly recommend that. It's been fantastic. I think we got some other Dev Plus customers in here. And well, David S says the only regret he has with GridPane is that he didn't catch the LTD plan in 2019. I feel that as well. I feel that. Oh, we got Zach Wallen in here too. Nice. What's up?
Oh boy.
GridPane certified partner. What a bargain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable stuff. I think we can kind of wrap here. I want to say one last thing because I think it's kind of like really good. The last thing on my notes was like we kind of just covered it. Recommendations for certain people, different use cases and things like that. Kind of want to like wrap this whole thing up with there's definitely a lot of great offers on the table if you guys are interested and you're not already a GridPane customer or you know anybody, like definitely tell them to get in now. Obviously though, and we'll probably talk again, I'm sure in a few months with like the next evolution of GridPane. I kind of want to leave it on like, what do you think though? We talked about why and the methodology and everything makes sense. What do you think, if anything, do you think like I don't want to say like the culture of GridPane, but like we talked a little bit about like how the vibe, at least in the Facebook group, is like really, in my opinion, like pretty technical. There's a lot of people that are always trying to do things, configure things, trying to make things even more optimized and performant and all that. Do you have any thoughts there for anybody that would be concerned that like, do we think the average GridPane user is going to become more of like just like a managed set it and forget it fully? Anything there to kind of reassure people that like that's if you still want this experience and you're on these plans and you don't plan on going anywhere, like you're not going to have to worry anything about that. Not the technology, but just like the what the
culture.
So like what just anything you have there as far as how that might change or how you think it'll evolve.
Yeah. So this was actually my favorite question of yours when we spoke last week, and it was my favorite insight that you had. And it just reiterates that the community that we built around GridPane is hands down it's hands down one of the best things that we built, and like so many other things, like the knowledge base, like the documentation, like the, all of these things. It's like, I didn't set out to build a community, like this is all the rage now. Everybody talks about building community. And it was like, no, we just needed a place for people to go and be able to see where our stuff was, and we needed a centralized place where people can ask and answer questions, and so I very much feel like in the future, that probably, that maybe being part of the GridPane community, like maybe that will be a paid upgrade, like literally, like if you're not already an existing customer, maybe you can't get in that group at all, because it is a higher level group, like no knock against Kyle. The admin bar is a fantastic group, but it is not nearly as technical. And it is not like, there are people in our group that have been, doesn't really matter where your agency is right now. They've gone from wherever you are right now to places that you may never even be able to wrap your head around. Right.
Yep.
And where our team goes in terms of the types of people that we want to work with serious baller ass technical people. We want to make our stuff available, and we want to have as big of a tent as possible for people to be able to consume our stuff. Like we want to sprinkle out some gateway drug, easy to use options, but no, the average, maybe like the median user of GridPane will be kind of, more beginner, but the average will always be people who host hundreds and thousands of sites, people who are deeply technical, people who are serious developers, freelancers, solopreneurs, and agencies. That will always be who it is that I want to work with, and it will be the people that I will have the biggest impact for, is people who actually want to get into the weeds, and so I don't believe that will change at all in us making it easier for someone who doesn't quite fit that to experience what it is that we have available to them. I think that, again, do we have a school community that we stand up? Do we have some other way that people can interact someplace else? Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Do we do a Discord? I don't know what the cool kids are doing these days. But I think that our Facebook group is, again, I think that at $100 a month, I think it would actually be worth it. Like for your ability to be able to get in and talk to somebody that can go, like there was a question just the other day that somebody asked where they were talking about, they basically were DDoSing themselves by sending out emails in MailChimp, and my answer was, yeah, good luck. Like the person that can solve that problem for you, is probably busy right now. And then like a half dozen different people in our community just basically were like, try this, do this. They got in and were lending a hand and trying to get them unlocked. And there's other people in that community that you can literally hire. Like if you're someone who's new to GridPane and you want, you need a primer on things, probably you can hire Mark. Probably you could hire people like Jen, to actually show you how to do stuff. Or you could hire Mark to literally manage your account for you. Like there's a lot of people in our ecosystem like that. And I never want that to go away. And so again, I think that the most valuable thing that arguably the most valuable thing that we ever built is that community. And so I wouldn't want to tarnish that. Like that feels, as much as the whole company, it feels like a piece where it's just like, oh, that's my baby, like I wouldn't want to, I freak out about thinking about the idea of like one of the big things that people are always concerned about is like, well, what if you sell? It's like, well, I don't really think I want to do that because they'd probably fuck it up, And like my favorite line around that is when Mark Zuckerberg got he got an offer for like $1 billion. Yeah. And he has the board meeting and he's sitting in there and it's Peter Thiel and it's Mark Andreessen. It's all these brilliant, billionaires. And he goes, so, we've got this offer for $1 billion. And of course, clearly we're not going to do that. And so next topic. And Peter Thiel goes, hold on, wait a second. Like you're personally going to walk away. I think my camera died here. Maybe. Did it?
I can still hear you. We can still hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So my camera died. The battery on my iPhone has officially died. And now I have to go eat. But So he says, yeah, Mark, like you would make like $600 or $700 million. And he goes, yeah, but then I would have to like sit on my hands for 18 months during my non-compete. And during that time, I couldn't actually work on anything because then I would be creating value for the person who bought it. And then after that, what I would do is probably start working on social networking again because it's the thing that I'm most interested in. And I've already got one that's really cool. So like, the hell would I sell it for? Like, so I could then like, like if I was not working on GridPane tomorrow, I'd go, well, I probably want to build some cool hosting shit because that's really the only thing I'm good at, like, and my ecosystem and my reputation is all in WordPress. So, for better or for worse, I'm probably trying to just build the exact same thing all over again, and so, yeah, the guy who had the hat in Target, that was his first question for me. He says, he moved to us because WP Engine bought Flywheel and he had 600 sites at Flywheel. And he goes, well, but what if WP Engine buys you? And then I go, hey, Ken, you realize that server that you just spun up, you own that. Like DigitalOcean is a publicly traded company. Like they're not going anywhere. And I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. And guess what happens to your servers? Nothing. They'll just run for years, So anyway, might be one last useful bit of context, but so that's
for sure.
That's I think of that often. I think of that Mark Zuckerberg story often.
Well, you built something special here. I'm happy to be a customer of GridPane. I'm happy to be a part of the community too. And like we were talking about there at the end, I think that's definitely one of the biggest assets. And I think that it's not really, I positioned that question as like a worry because some people might be worried of that.
Sure.
But I think it's all just opportunity. You're going to have more people in the ecosystem. You're going to have more money to do more things. You have more money to do more innovative things. And then there could be really interesting avenues where there, like you said, there's multiple communities, almost like subsets of the community, and they serve different people because there's, maybe different archetypes of agency owners and like just freelancers and all sorts of stuff. I think it's great. It's a little, weird right now to hear that those plans are going away, but obviously the technology is still staying. The company is not GridPane isn't going away. That's the theme of this video. But Patrick, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for hopping on. Hopefully everybody in the audience got stuff out of it. Obviously, where do you want to send people over to GridPane? Anything else you're working on or anything like that you want to shout out?
I mean, again, just gridpane.com. You can join if you do nothing else, you don't need to become a customer. Join our Facebook group. It's free, and you can see power users all day, every day interacting with each other. Obviously, we've got some really cool stuff, Black Friday, Cyber Monday happening right now. Look below this video for Mark's link because then he makes money and you get, you know what? Let's do this. Let's sweeten the pot for them. If you buy through Mark's link, sometime in the next 2 weeks, we will do another kind of Q&A like this, but we'll do it like wherever anybody wants to go. It doesn't need to be questions about GridPane. It can be, what are my biggest regrets about fundraising? What would I do differently if I started another agency again? Like if I went back in time and could talk to my former self, what are the biggest mistakes and the biggest learnings and the biggest upsides that I've gotten over the last 8 years? So if you join through Mark's link, then we will do something like that and he can schedule it and all of you benefit from that. So
love it. Sweetening the pot for you guys. Hope you appreciate it. Brother, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. Doing great stuff. Excited to continue to chat and see it evolve.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mark. This was awesome. I always appreciate your feedback and your insights and you taking the time to help us clarify these things for everybody else out there. And yeah, appreciate you.